Hello kids. Today we are going to tell a new story about a little mermaid who hears something strange deep beneath the waves. Something so loud it makes the sand on the seafloor tremble. And no, it's not thunder or a seaquake. It's something much sillier. So, snuggle in, fluff your pillows and close your eyes gently. Because the ocean is calling. Far beneath the surface of the sea, where sunlight turns soft and blue, there was a quiet little cove. It was the sort of place where sleepy jellyfish floated like glowing lanterns, and the coral swayed gently as if dreaming. In the heart of this cove lived a little mermaid with long seafoam green hair that curled like waves. Her name? Well, let's just call her Luna for now. Luna loved her cove. It was peaceful, cozy, and filled with the softest sand for afternoon naps. She liked to sing to the sea stars and chase bubbles through the kelp curtains. But lately, something had been happening. Every time Luna tried to nap, a strange rumble would roll through the water. It tickled her tail. It wiggled the shells. It even startled the sleeping clams. At first, she thought it might be a whale with a sneeze. Or maybe the sound of distant ships grumbling across the surface. But this was different. It came in bursts, like hiccups made by a sleeping volcano. One especially wiggly afternoon, the noise grew so loud that a stack of pearl rocks near her pillow tumbled over. Luna crossed her arms and frowned. "All right," she whispered to herself. "That's enough. Someone is snoring way too loudly. And I'm going to find out who." The next morning, the ocean floor was anything but still. Tiny bubbles fizzled up from the sand like giggles trying to escape. Sea cucumbers bounced in place. A sleepy crab skittered sideways, grumbling to itself. Luna floated above the cove, arms crossed, watching as the sand rippled again beneath her. It puffed up in small, ticklish bursts, making little dunes wobble like jelly. "Arr!" came the sound again, rolling deep and low, as if someone were snoring through a conch shell the size of a shipwreck. Luna twirled once in the water and frowned. It didn't sound angry. It didn't sound dangerous. Just sounded tired. Fish darted out of their coral beds with annoyed expressions, and a pair of sleepy-eyed eels blinked at each other, confused. A swirl of seagrass danced in a spiraling rhythm as the Snore wave passed through. Even the sand dollars flipped over, looking dizzy. Luna tilted her head and floated down toward the sea floor. She touched the sand gently. It trembled under her fingers, warm and slightly ticklish, like a cat's purring belly. "That's no wave," she said quietly. "That's a snore." Another loud one vibrated through the water, making her bounce in place. "Bibibir." Luna giggled. "Whoever it is, they must have one very tired nose." She looked out past the cove, beyond the coral walls and glittering sea fans, into the deeper blue where sunlight no longer danced. That's where the snores were coming from. That's where the sea grew dark and mysterious. For a moment, she felt the tiniest flutter in her chest. The deeper blue was not for little mermaids. But then the sand jiggled again. "But how will I nap if they won't?" she whispered, and off she swam. The further Luna swam, the quieter the ocean seemed, except for those snore rumbles rolling through the water now and then like faraway drums wrapped in seaweed. She passed sleepy seahorses bobbing like lanterns and schools of fish pressed tightly together, whispering through their bubbles. As she glided over a ridge of lavender coral, Luna paused. Something was humming. A soft harmony echoed up from below. It wasn't quite a song, but not quite speech either. It shimmered through the water like ripples of wind. Luna dipped lower, curious, until she came face to face with a curious sight. The coral choir. They weren't called that officially, of course, but Luna had always thought of them that way. This collection of coral, spiraling, branching, knobby and bright, had faces. Not like human faces but coral faces, full of creases and eye-like holes that blinked and wobbled with expression. They always seemed to know what was going on in the sea. And they always loved to sing about it. Asterisk H. Asterisk, the tallest one hummed, its lips puckering from a ridge of pink. The deeper blue stirs, murmured a twisty red coral. Big snores from the deep. Asterisk something sleepy, something large asterisk, warbled a tiny blue bud. Something dreamy with a tail the size of a reef. Luna blinked. Wait, you know who's making the noise? The corals wobbled together like nodding heads. A dragon, Luna guessed. A sea monster. They shimmered, forming a slow, bubbling harmony. Asterisk asterisk he sleeps alone, in a hollowed stone. His breath a wave, his snore a moan. Asterisk asterisk. Luna felt a shiver run through her scales. A sea dragon. But they're just stories, she whispered. The coral faces didn't blink. Instead they sang again. Some tales sleep deep. Until they don't. Luna floated still, letting the coral choir's eerie melody fade into silence. A dragon. A sea dragon. Her heart fluttered like a startled guppy. She had heard about them, of course, every young mermaid had. But those were bedtime tales, the kind you told to make bubbles shiver or see siblings squeal. Still, the rumble was real. And the way the corals sang it, this dragon wasn't mean or monstrous. Just very, very tired. Luna turned and swam toward a smooth stone arch where a large clamshell sat like a throne, half buried in sand and glowing faintly with pearl light. Nestled within it, sipping from a cup of steaming kelp tea, sat Grandmother Shell. Everyone in the reef knew her. Her tail was pale lavender, like moonlight on a jellyfish. Her hair was white as foam and piled high with coral pins. And her eyes, cloudy but kind, always seemed to see things that hadn't happened yet. Luna approached respectfully. "Grandmother," she said softly, "do you know anything about a sea dragon? A snoring one?" The old mermaid smiled without looking up. "Ah," she sighed. "So he's snoring again." Luna gasped. Asterisk he's real. Asterisk. Of course he's real. Grandmother Shell chuckled, stirring her tea with a spoon made of driftwood. Just hasn't been seen in many tides. He sleeps in the hollow below, where the waters hum like lullabies and the rocks curl like pillows. But why is he so loud? He's big and lonely and never quite comfortable. Not all creatures snore because they're noisy. Some snore because they're sad. Luna tilted her head. "Can I help him?" Grandmother Shell gave her a long, slow look. Then, with a gentle nod, she handed Luna a tiny glowing stone. "You can try," she whispered. "But remember, kindness is the softest sound in the sea." That night, while the reef lay hushed beneath a silver moon, Luna made her preparations. She returned to her little nook and packed her woven bubble bag carefully. A scrap of sea moss for luck, a jelly light for dark places, a tiny conch shell filled with calming salt breeze, just in case, and Grandmother Shell's glowing stone, now pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. Outside, the water shimmered pale blue under the moonlight filtering from above. The currents were gentle, but every so often they shuddered with that familiar rumble. Asterisk asterisk, rolling through like a sleepy whale trying to sing in its dreams. Luna took a deep breath and looked out toward the dark waters beyond the reef. The deeper blue was not a place for little mermaids. That's what everyone said. It was shadowy, quiet, and filled with things that liked to be left alone. But Luna wasn't just any little mermaid. She straightened her bubble bag over her shoulder and flicked her shimmering tail once, then again, swimming upward toward the current that would carry her east, toward the hollow below. The water cooled as she rose, and the light from the moon lit her path in glittering streaks. Glowing fish swirled around her in sleepy loops, and a school of silvery minnows whispered past like scattered dreams. The reef faded behind her, and ahead lay the unknown. But Luna didn't tremble. Not this time. Because somewhere out there, beneath a pile of curled stones and dreams too big for his own bed, was a dragon who couldn't sleep. And if she could help, even just a little, maybe, just maybe, she'd sleep soundly again too. She gave one last glance behind, whispered "see you soon" to the stars above, and slipped into the dark with a flick of her tail. The current carried Luna eastward into the hush of the deeper sea, where the colors grew darker and the water thicker with silence. Before long, she reached the kelp forests, tall swaying towers of green that danced slowly with the rhythm of the sea. Each stalk rose like a sleepy tree, crowned with fan-shaped leaves that fluttered like sea flags. It was quiet here but not empty. The forest whispered, creaked, shifted in the dark. Luna slowed down, her eyes wide. The kelp parted and closed again behind her, like the sea holding its breath. Tiny fish with glow-dot tails zipped past her, leaving brief trails of sparkling light in their wake. Somewhere above, a crab clattered its way through the canopy, dislodging a sea apple that plopped down beside her. Then came the sound again. Asterisk, muffled now but still powerful. It echoed softly through the kelp stems, making them tremble like reeds in the wind. Luna paused mid-swim and hovered. "That's closer," she whispered. She swam carefully, brushing aside long strands of kelp, listening to the shifting echoes. The deeper she went, the thicker the forest became. Shadows played tricks. A stalk moved but no current passed. A bubble floated up, then popped silently beside her. Then came the fluttering echoes, as if the snoring was bouncing off every stalk, multiplying into a choir of sleepy sounds. Some of the snores even hiccuped, letting out a sharp bloom that startled a group of squids into vanishing puffs. Luna giggled despite herself. This dragon really is snoring like a ship full of sea cows. She tightened her grip on her bubble bag and swam forward through the kelp gates, each breath slower, each flick of her tail more careful. Beyond this forest, she knew, something enormous was dreaming. Luna emerged from the last curtain of kelp into a clearing of soft sandy seabed dotted with round, flat stones that looked like pillows abandoned by the tide. The water here felt heavier, as if even the ocean itself were trying not to make a sound. But it wasn't quiet. Because right there, atop a sunken dune, was a hill full of crabs. Not just one or two. Dozens. Red ones, orange ones, some with little spectacles perched on their claws, others carrying shells like fancy hats. All of them scuttling, pacing, and gesturing with an energy only crabs could summon. And all of them were clearly annoyed. Honestly, the nerve! One crab barked, waving a claw toward the dark trench beyond. "I haven't had a full night's rest in 10 tides," snapped another. "My sand garden is ruined," complained a third, motioning to a pile of wind-blown pebbles. "His snoring keeps rearranging my decor." Luna floated closer and cleared her throat. Excuse me, are you talking about the snoring?" Dozens of crab eyes swiveled in unison to stare at her. Yes, the monocle-wearing crab said, puffing up. "That dragon has turned our neighborhood into a shake-and-snooze zone. You'd think a creature of that size would have the decency to sleep somewhere less echoey." Another crab scurried up beside her, climbing onto her fin like it was a platform. "And every time he snores, my sandcastle collapses." Every single time. Luna held up her hands. I'm going to see if I can help him. The crabs all stopped. One raised a claw. Help you. A tiny mermaid. Luna smiled. Well, someone has to. You certainly don't look like volunteers. Oz. Then the monocled crab muttered. Well, do tell him to roll over. Past the fussy crab hill and into the trench below, the water darkened like sleep falling over the sea. Luna swam slowly now, her bubble bag pressed close to her chest. The glowing stone from grandmother's shell lit the way in a soft lavender hue, just enough to keep shadows from feeling too large. The currents had stilled here. Even the fish had vanished. It was as if the sea itself was holding its breath. Then she saw it. Asterisk asterisk a cave asterisk asterisk, enormous and rounded like the hollow belly of a whale, with smooth stone lips and soft moss lining the entrance. But it wasn't just quiet. Pulse. Fever. The snores rolled out of the cave in slow, rhythmic waves, bouncing off the stone walls, echoing outward with a strange, comical twist. Each one sounded like a hiccup trapped inside a thundercloud. With every rumble, puffs of sand lifted from the floor and spiraled like sleepy dust. Luna giggled. The cave of endless hiccups, she whispered. No wonder no one comes here. She floated toward the entrance, brushing past seaweed that curled like fingers reaching out. Inside, the snores were louder but somehow friendlier. Not angry or wild, just tired. Enormously, deeply, impossibly tired. The walls shimmered faintly, lined with barnacles and glowing moss. Bubbles rose from cracks in the floor, making little giggle noises as they escaped. And then something moved. A ripple in the shadows. Luna froze. Something large was shifting in the darkness ahead. She drifted forward, holding her glowing stone out, eyes wide. The snore hiccuped again, and she followed the sound, turning slowly around a smooth boulder. That's when she saw it. Not a head, not a claw, but a tail, thick as a tree trunk, scaled like moonlit stone, and twitching slightly with every snore. She had found him. The tail was enormous. It curled gently along the cave floor, disappearing into the darkness like a river of scales. It wasn't spiky or frightening. It shimmered in hues of deep sea green and silver, with edges that glowed faintly like starlight on still water. As Luna watched, the tail gave a tiny twitch, and a cluster of sleepy bubbles drifted up from beneath it. Luna floated forward, careful not to touch anything. Her heart thumped like a tiny drum. She knew that somewhere beyond this tail was the rest of him, the snoring, dreaming storybook dragon no one had seen in ages. Another deep, sleepy breath rumbled through the cave. Ahurf. The sound rolled over her like a cozy blanket, strange and comforting all at once. She reached a bend in the cave wall, glided quietly around it, and there he was, the sea dragon. He was curled in on himself like a cat, his long body looped around a bed of smooth pebbles and glowing coral. His fins were shaped like giant lionfish fronds, folded loosely along his sides. His nose, broad and a little wrinkled, rested on a mossy pillow, and his enormous eyes were closed, lashes fluttering slightly with each breath. He didn't look scary. He looked exhausted. Luna hovered silently, mesmerized. Creature so big, so legendary, and here he was just trying to sleep, and snoring like a thunderstorm full of jellyfish. She slowly lowered herself onto a ledge across from him and watched him dream. Bubbles rose from his nostrils in lazy little bursts. His tail twitched again. A soft mumble escaped his lips, something between a yawn and a sigh. Luna smiled. He was real, and he was lonely. "Hello," she whispered softly into the stillness. "I'm Luna, and I think you might need a friend." The dragon's great eye cracked open. Just a sliver at first, glowing gold in the dim light like the sunrise over a still sea. Luna froze. He blinked once, very slowly, as if pulling himself out of a dream where clouds had pillows and fish sang lullabies. Then his eye opened wider, the pupil adjusting. His head lifted just slightly, revealing his broad face and the soft frills that framed his jaw like drifting seaweed. They stared at each other in silence. Then, the dragon gave a yawn so long and slow that the entire cave seemed to sigh with him. Pebbles trembled and shifted. A few startled bubbles popped between them. Luna waved awkwardly. "Hi!" The dragon blinked. His voice came out like a distant foghorn wrapped in velvet. "You're not a jellyfish." "Nope," she said, floating closer. "I'm a mermaid. I think your snoring might be shaking half the sea." The dragon gave a low hum, then rested his chin back on the moss. "Can't help it," he murmured. "I've tried curling up on my side. I've tried floating upside down. I even tried wrapping myself in kelp, but it just made me sneeze." Luna floated beside him, thoughtful. "So, you're not grumpy or dangerous." "Dangerous," he snorted gently. "Only to my own bedtime." He let out another tremendous sigh, one that ruffled Luna's hair and made a sleepy crab roll over in its shell. "I'm just so tired," he rumbled. Luna looked around the cave. It was cozy in a forgotten kind of way, but not exactly restful. Hard stones, leaky bubbles, not even a single plush sea sponge in sight. "Well," she said softly, opening her bubble bag, "then maybe it's time we fixed that." And just like that, the dragon smiled, a tiny sleepy curl of his enormous lips. Luna floated a little higher, rummaging through her bubble bag with both hands. "Okay," she murmured. "Let's start small." The sea dragon watched with one droopy eye as she pulled out a pair of soft spiral seashells, pearlescent, just the right size for her palms. She tapped them gently together. "Seashell earplugs," she announced, "to muffle your own snoring. That way you don't wake yourself up." The dragon blinked slowly. "You're clever for something so small." Luna grinned. "Thank you. Hold still." She floated up beside the dragon's head, which was roughly the size of a fishing boat, and gently pressed one shell against his ear fin. Took a few tries. His scales were so large, she had to wedge the shell into a fold with both hands. "Tickles," he muttered. "Hang on one more." Luna pushed the second shell in place and gave a thumbs up. "There. All set." The dragon stared ahead, eyes blinking unevenly. For a moment it seemed to work. The cave fell into stillness. He let out a quiet puff of air, closed his eyes again and a mighty sneeze blasted the shell out like a cork from a bottle. It bounced off the wall and spiraled into the sand. A swarm of startled shrimp darted past in a zigzag frenzy. Luna barely managed to duck. The dragon groaned, sniffling slightly. "They tickled." "Well," Luna sighed, brushing kelp from her hair, "at least you're breathing freely." He chuckled. Asterisk, a low, rumbly sort of chuckle asterisk, the kind that rolled gently like distant thunder. "You're funny," he said. "And brave." "Brave?" she asked. "You stuck seashells in a dragon's ear." Luna smiled. "I'll take that as a compliment." And in the faint light of the cave, a little trust began to bloom. After the seashell sneeze, Luna sat cross-legged on a mossy stone, deep in thought. The sea dragon lay curled beside her, still looking immensely tired. his head resting gently on his tail like a knot of tangled dreams. "Okay," she muttered, pulling out a small scroll of coral thread ideas. Earplugs were a no. Time for Plan B. The dragon lifted one scaly brow. "There's a Plan B. There's a Plan C," Luna said proudly. "But let's try this first." From her bag, she pulled out a small pouch tied with ribbon weed. Inside bubble gel. Magical stuff. Thick, sticky, cozy. Perfect for blankets. With a flick of her wrist and a swirl of water, she released it into the cave. Instantly, the bubble gel inflated, stretching, floating, wrapping itself into a massive, shimmering bubble blanket that drifted down like a cloud made of sleepy yawns. Luna tucked the corners in gently around the dragon. Next came the starfish pajamas. Okay, not real pajamas. But Luna had charmed a group of sleepy starfish to come along, and now they nestled onto the dragon's back and belly like warm, living patches. They clung lazily to his scales, humming faint, slow lullabies only sea creatures can hear. The dragon blinked. "Cozy," he murmured. "Try lying on your side," Luna instructed, swimming up and flipping over midair. Tail tucked in, chin down. "Like this." The dragon shifted, curling more neatly into himself. The bubble blanket puffed around him. The starfish snuggled in deeper. Luna waited. The dragon let out a long sigh. His eyes closed. Page WMPF. The bubble blanket burst with a watery squawk as he rolled too far. Starfish flew like floppy pancakes. A rock cracked softly nearby. The dragon opened one eye. "Oops." Luna landed upside down on his nose. "Plan C," she offered, already grinning. He nodded sleepily. "Let's." "Plan C," Luna announced, floating dramatically above the dragon's snout. "Involves the big stuff." The dragon blinked, his fins twitching like a sleepy cat's ears. "Bigger than bubble blankets." "Oh yes," Luna nodded, rummaging through her bag. "Plan C is musical." He raised a scaly eyebrow. "I once read," Luna said, unrolling a scroll made from jellyfish parchment, "that whales carry the deepest lullabies in the sea. Low notes soothe even the most stubborn snores. I'm going to sing you to sleep, with backup." The dragon tilted his head. "You sing." Luna grinned. "Only when it matters." Just then, a massive shadow floated above the cave's entrance. It moved with a slow grace like a drifting moon. The dragon's eye widened as a whale, black as midnight with soft glowing spots, dipped its head into the cavern and released a gentle hoo-oo, a note so low it tickled the stones. "Meet Wello," Luna said proudly. "My lullaby buddy." Wello sang again. The sound rippled through the cave like honey pouring over rocks. Luna took a breath, closed her eyes, and began to hum along, a high, delicate melody that danced atop Wello's deep tone like bubbles on a wave. Together they created something magical. The dragon's eyes fluttered. His tail loosened. Even the moss seemed to soften its edges. The snores began to slow. One, then a pause. Then another, gentler. No burst, no bubbles, just breath. For a moment the sea felt still. Luna kept singing, voice soft and steady. The whale echoed her notes in long, yawning tones. The dragon shifted once, then curled in tighter, his massive chest rising and falling in calm rhythm. "I think," he mumbled mid-yawn, "that might actually be work." But the last word never came. He was snoring again, but this time quietly. It was working, really truly working. Luna hovered in the still water, hands clasped together, watching the dragon's huge form rise and fall with deep, peaceful breaths. The lullaby had softened the air around them like a dream cloud. Wello, the whale, floated nearby, emitting one last deep note before dipping back into the shadows with a flick of his tail. The dragon let out a contented sigh that echoed like a sleepy breeze through the cave. Luna exhaled slowly. "Finally," she whispered. "Success." But success, it turned out, had a sense of humor. Without warning, a massive snore escaped the dragon's throat. So sudden and mighty it sent jellyfish spinning in frantic spirals. Pebbles rattled. Sand puffed upward like a geyser. A nearby crab did a full somersault off a rock and vanished in a puff of bubbles. Luna clung to a piece of coral, hair blown back by the sheer force of the snore. Her cheeks flapped in the current. "Okay," she said, blinking. "We are back to full volume." The dragon groaned in his sleep, mumbling something about flying clams and upside-down pillows. One eye opened a slit, then rolled closed again. Luna caught a spinning starfish and tucked it back onto his side. "I was so sure that would work." He grunted softly, unaware of the chaos. She floated above him, arms crossed, tapping her chin. Okay. Maybe singing isn't enough. He needs more than a lullaby. He needs to relax from the inside out." She reached into her bag again, pulling out a bundle of dandelion kelp and a tiny glass orb filled with glowing mist. "Time for Plan D," she whispered. "Mermaid tea and breathing lessons. Because if a dragon could exhale fire, maybe he could learn to breathe like a sea breeze instead." Luna floated to a smooth stone just beside the dragon's resting head. She unwrapped a bundle of dandelion kelp, each strand soft and curly, glimmering with a silvery sheen. Next came her tiny orb. Inside, a glowing mist swirled gently like a trapped yawn. "Okay, sleepyhead," she whispered. "Time to relax the right way." The dragon blinked one eye open. More singing. Nope. Tea." She popped the orb and sprinkled the mist into a clamshell bowl filled with warm current water. The kelp followed, curling and steeping in delicate swirls. Instantly, a soft aroma drifted through the cave. Sweet, grassy, with a hint of sea salt and lullaby. The dragon sniffed. "Smells gentle." "That's the idea," Luna said, handing the tea up to him in a large bubble cup. "Drink slowly." He slurped it once, then groaned happily. "That feels like a hug in my chest." "Exactly," she said. "Now breathe with me." She took a deep breath, her gills fluttering slightly, and exhaled in a long, soft stream of bubbles. "Breathe in and out. Nice and slow." The dragon tried. His first breath in rattled the coral slightly. His exhale sent a small sea sponge tumbling. "Too hard," Luna giggled. "Softer. Like this." She demonstrated again, floating peacefully in a circle. Like waves on a calm shore. The dragon tried again, this time more carefully. Okay. The cave grew still. Again. Luna watched his giant eyelids grow heavier with each breath. The lines of tension in his fins smoothed. His claws curled in like seaweed tendrils. The snores didn't vanish, but they softened. "Smooth. Keep going," she whispered. "You're doing perfect." The dragon gave the softest grunt of appreciation and sank deeper into the mossy floor. One more breath, then another. And this time no jellyfish spun. As the dragon's breathing steadied into a slow, ocean-like rhythm, Luna floated in thoughtful silence, the empty teacup bobbing beside her. The snores had mellowed into something between a sigh and a purr. Still a bit rumbly, but almost musical. Still she had a hunch. "What if we don't stop the snores?" she murmured. "But use them." She reached into her bubble bag for the last and strangest thing she'd packed. A tangle of sea glass tubing, several spools of glowing coral wire, and a set of old jellyfish bells she'd found near a shipwreck. It was a bit of everything, and exactly what she needed. The dragon cracked one sleepy eye. "Are we building something now?" "Yes," Luna said, twirling a wire. "We're going to catch your snores and turn them into dreams." The dragon tilted his head. "Dreams? A soft machine," she said, swimming in a circle around him, her hands already at work. "To spin your snores into bubbles filled with gentle dreams. They'll float through the sea instead of shaking it." She strung the jellyfish bells above him like a sleepy mobile. With coral wire, she linked them to the sea glass tubes, weaving them along the cave ceiling. Each snore would pass through the spiral tubes, slow down, swirl around, and pop out as puffy dream bubbles. Simple, magical, slightly ridiculous, just like Luna herself. The dragon sniffed as she finished. "Looks like a squid built a xylophone." "Perfect," Luna beamed. They waited. A small snore escaped. The tubes twinkled. The bells hummed. A delicate bubble floated out, swirling with soft colors. Inside it, a tiny dream image of a cloud made of sponge cake and a flying otter in a top hat. The dragon blinked. "That came from me." Luna smiled. Dreams always come from somewhere. The cave had changed. Where once there had been only snores and stone, now the air shimmered with floating dream bubbles. Soft, glowing orbs drifting lazily in the dim water, each one carrying a tiny image spun from the dragon's slumbering mind. Luna floated beside them, watching as one bubble passed close. Inside, a tiny cloudfish swam in lazy circles, its puffed body trailing sparkles like a comet. Another bubble contained a miniature ship made of teacups and leaves, bobbing gently across an ocean of pudding. The dragon watched with a sleepy, amazed grin. "I didn't even know I dreamed of pudding boats." "You do now," Luna whispered, touching a bubble with one finger and making it shimmer pink. "Your snores aren't just noise. They're stories trying to float free." Around them, the machine of wires and tubes continued to hum, gently siphoning each snore and turning it into a bit of wonder. The cave pulsed with soft pastel light, blues, purples, pale gold, and the bubbles drifted upward like fireflies rising to the stars. Some popped quietly, releasing sparkles into the current. Others floated out the mouth of the cave, into the sea beyond. "Will the others see them?" the dragon asked, his voice a slow drawl. Luna nodded. "Maybe. Maybe a crab will dream of flying. Or a coral will hum a lullaby." One bubble floated toward the ceiling and caught on a stalactite, wobbling in place. Luna and the dragon watched as it spun slowly, revealing an image of a little mermaid and a great gentle dragon, both fast asleep. The dragon's eyes softened. "That one's my favorite." "You haven't even seen them all yet," Luna teased. "I don't need to." He closed his eyes, his massive body curling like ribboned seaweed, and let another snore roll out, soft, musical, and full of dreams. Outside the cave, the sea had quieted. The choral choir, far back near Luna's cove, had gone still. No more warnings, no more humming riddles. The coral faces were relaxed now, their creased mouths half-lidded, their glowing edges pulsing with the rhythm of distant lullabies. Even the fussiest branches had curled gently inward, as if tucking themselves into coral beds. A few lingering dream bubbles floated lazily past them, one shaped like a fish in a tiny rocking chair, another filled with stars that twinkled like lullaby notes. The coral shimmered softly. Asterisk, he dreams. He rests. Asterisk, murmured the tallest coral in tones of pure contentment. Asterisk, the cave no longer shakes. The sea no longer stirs. Asterisk. Small reef fish hovered close, nuzzling between coral fingers for sleep. A pair of yawning seahorses looped tails and drifted into a current. Even the ever-grumpy crabs had fallen silent, tucked into their burrows beneath rocks and seashells, no longer pacing or puffing. For the first time in what felt like forever, the reef was wrapped in stillness. And it wasn't just quiet. It was peaceful. Down in the sand, a soft harmony began to hum. Not a warning, but a lullaby. The choral choir had resumed their song, not in worry, but in rest. A low, sleepy tune that pulsed outward like a soft wave, warm and slow. Asterisk, sleep rolls in, so calm, so deep. Even coral learns to sleep. Asterisk. Tiny bubbles rose from the reef in time with the music. Luna's ripples had reached home, even from far away. Somewhere in the deeper blue, a dragon dreamed without shaking the sea, and the reef, once wide awake, finally allowed itself to rest. The ocean held its breath, and let it out very softly. Back in the dragon's cave, the dream bubble machine gave a final gentle chime as another soft snore rolled through the tubes and floated into a star-shaped puff. Luna hovered nearby, watching the bubbles drift upward, her tail swaying gently in the still current. The dragon was now curled tighter than before. His tail looped like a seashell spiral, his frilled fins tucked in like a nest. He looked so at peace, it was almost hard to remember that just hours ago, he'd been shaking the sea with every breath. Luna reached into her bubble bag and pulled out a small scallop shell. She blew a soft stream of bubbles into it. It shimmered, sealed, and began to glow. "A goodbye shell," she whispered. "So he knows I was real." She drifted forward and tucked the shell gently beneath one of his claws. The dragon stirred, opened one eye halfway. "You're leaving," he mumbled, voice thick with sleep. Luna nodded. "The reef's quiet again. I think your dreams have floated far enough to calm the whole sea." He blinked slowly, then closed his eyes again. "Will you come back?" "Of course," she said, brushing a curl of glowing moss from his cheek. "Whenever you need someone to chase your snores into dreams." The dragon gave a tiny rumble of a chuckle. She swam upward, past the spiral tubes and glowing coral, turning once in the entrance to look back. The cave glowed softly, wrapped in peace. Bubbles shimmered above the dragon's head like drifting stars. Luna smiled. "Sweet dreams, sleepy sea giant." And with that, she turned and swam out into the ocean's open arms, her bubble bag swinging gently at her side, her heart light as a jellyfish on a breeze. She had a reef to return to, and dreams of her own. The sea welcomed Luna like an old friend, wrapping her in a silken current that carried her homeward. Above her, the moon shimmered through the water in soft ribbons of silver, and below, the ocean pulsed with a deep, gentle quiet. She swam slowly now, her arms loose at her sides, her fins trailing behind like drifting fabric. Every breath felt slower, every thought felt softer. Behind her, the cave faded into shadow, its glow hidden by the folds of the sea. But the dream bubbles still rose, some floating gently past her, like drifting lanterns made of wishes and sleep. A cloudfish winked at her from inside one. A star-shaped turtle blinked from another. She watched them rise toward the moonlight, fading into the dark, as if whispering back to her, "You did it." The reef appeared like a memory through the dark. Her coral bed, her jellyfish lanterns, the softly swaying kelp, everything waiting unchanged but somehow quieter now. The coral choir was silent, sleeping peacefully in their grooves. The crabs didn't even twitch as she passed. Luna curled into her favorite spot, the one lined with crushed shell sand and mossy sea puffs, and exhaled. A bubble drifted up from her lips, catching the moonlight. Her eyes fluttered closed. Far, far away, a dragon curled around a glowing shell, dreaming of floating boats and mermaids with brave hearts. And far above, the moon smiled down on both of them, its light soft as a lullaby. The ocean rocked them gently, together and apart. And everything was still,